you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Monday Night Football overtime. Boy, was that a doozy right there. NFC West family business. And we knew this was going to be a showdown. And we've seen this all weekend long where family business is conducted and the team that you don't expect to win comes out victorious. Now, this wasn't quite the same like New Orleans, Atlanta, but nonetheless, it was some damn good family business between two teams that we thought could produce this kind of football game. Now, I didn't know that the 49ers would be as banged up as they ultimately were in this game. I knew they were going to get a lot of their guys back. I knew they were going to get both of their tackles back. I knew they were going to get Kyle Juszczyk back. They were going to have their best wide receiver. It's amazing that their best wide receiver is also the guy that just got there in Emmanuel Sanders, but E-Man Sand was going to be available, or so I thought. And I thought they were going to have pretty much all hands on deck minus their best player, George Kittle. But I thought they could suffice. I thought they could get away with not having him in the lineup because Seattle's defense had been absolutely horrid this season, especially in the secondary. And then, in typical family business fashion, they show up, they show out, they play top-notch defense, and this thing turns into a straight drag-out, slobber knocker, knockdown, drag out with no offense from really either team. I mean, when you look at this game, really it's the defense that generated most of the points for both teams in this game. All 21 points at one point for Seattle. They had 21 unanswered in this game. They were down 10-0. They scored 21 unanswered. All 21 points came off of turnovers. All right, the 49ers looked dead after the 21 unanswered. They were down by 11, and they get back into it on a defensive turnover. So the defenses for both teams were really responsible for much of the offense that we saw on the night. And then it was a big defensive play in overtime that we thought was going to end up being the deciding factor as Drake Greenlaw gets a pick, gets it into Seattle Seahawks territory, and you're thinking, that's going to be all she wrote. If Chase McLaughlin does what he's done all night long, which is knock these damn field goals through the uprights, you're going to have a winner here. And he pulls one of the nastiest shank jobs you will ever see. And at that point, I'm like, they've got to lose this game. And wouldn't you know it, Russell Wilson does what he's done all season long, which is why he's right now probably your favorite to be the MVP of the NFL. Takes his team down the field, gets them in the field goal range. And their kicker, who struggled last week, Jason Myers, who missed an opportunity to be the hero last week and forced Russell Wilson to have to put the team on his back in overtime instead of winning in regulation on a walk-off field goal, steps up to the plate essentially and knocks it out of the park. He delivers on what Chase McLaughlin couldn't do earlier in overtime, and that's drill a game-winning field goal as the Seattle Seahawks somehow escape Levi Field or Stadium with a 27-24 victory. And then there were none, as there are no undefeated teams left in the National Football League. Again, I never thought for one second anyone was going undefeated this year. I didn't see any team in this league being good enough to get that done. And so once the Patriots lost, and I knew they would eventually lose, I figured the 49ers would be soon thereafter. I did not expect it to be tonight, though. Let me reiterate that. This was an awful week for picking games, by the way, for just about everybody. Now, some did better than others, but this was a rough one, man. Boy, this is the NFL giving you a quick reminder that you don't know what the hell you think you thought. You think you thought you knew what was going on. You have no idea what the hell is going on, all right? You have absolutely zero idea of what the hell is going on. It was a rough one, man. And this was the exclamation point on what was a stinky, funky, nasty-ass week picking games. And kudos to the Seattle Seahawks, man. It wasn't pretty. It was definitely gritty. And most importantly, it was a dub. And now they sit just a half game back of the San Francisco 49ers in that really rough, tough, and rugged NFC West division. I still think it's San Francisco's division to lose, but that's a tough one because now you got to go on the road to Seattle and find a way to go and get one if you're San Francisco. You hope that you're a little bit healthier, and you hope that the injury to Eman Sand isn't serious. I'd like to think that that's probably some kind of cracked rib. I mean, he grabbed it immediately, but boy, that's a tough, bitter pill to swallow if you're San Francisco. You threw that game away. I mean, they couldn't do anything, and you had 2 Jimmy G fumbles and a pick. And goddamn it, if Michael, you know what? He's Michael Bourne tonight. I know his name's Kendrick, but when you play the way he played tonight, goddamn it, your name is now Michael Bourne, okay? If he could catch the goddamn ball, maybe this is a different damn game. And you know what? If the receivers in San Francisco, for that matter, could catch, because there was an early possession in the game in which Godwin let the ball go right through his damn hands. Yeah, it was a little high. Jump and catch the goddamn... For him to be as fast as he is, Jesus, he can't jump. If that's as high as he can get off the ground, maybe he mistimed his jump. I don't know. But that was a lazy-ass attempt at that football that went off his fingers that should have been a catch in the red zone. Probably should have been a touchdown, but at worst should have been a catch inside the 10-yard line. And they should have been in business with an opportunity to score a touchdown and make it 14-0 instead of having to settle for a field goal to make it 10-0. And then you had Michael Bourne dropping footballs all over the damn place, including a massive drop that landed in the hands of newly acquired Seattle Seahawks defender. Forgot the damn name of the safety they got from Detroit. But that can't happen. I mean, it's 10-7 for the longest time. I don't know if Seattle scores another point the rest of the night. If you don't have that pick go right into the hands of that Seahawks defender, and just like that, I said they're going to score this time because they should have scored on the DK Metcalf fumble. They were going to go for a touchdown there. He gets stripped. That's a hell of a play, though. Got to give credit to Jaquiski Tart for stripping him out of the football there, but you weren't going to keep getting away with these opportunities. You weren't going to keep giving Seattle chance after chance after chance. They were going to make you pay eventually, and they did, and they took the lead. And I was shocked. I thought once they got up 21-10, I thought they were going to win this game. I did not think they were going to allow San Francisco back in the game. And then Russell Wilson had an uncharacteristic fumble of his own. And once the ball went into the hands of Jermaine Ifedi, I'm yelling, "Get down! Where are you going? You're not going to go anywhere, and they're going to take the ball from you. Get down!" And sure enough, he starts running, big man with football, and you know what that means. And the 49ers, give them credit. Anytime you see a big man with football in hands, go after it. They have no idea how to secure a football. They just know it's in their hands, and they're carrying it like a big loaf of bread. Knock that shit out of his hands, and they went stripping and poking and prodding, and sure enough, that thing came out, scooped up by DeForest Buckner, and Defoe wanders into the end zone, and just like that, they're back in the damn game. And this was a crazy game, man. I mean, so many turnovers, so many mistakes. I never imagined this game being as sloppy as it was, but also the defense is stepping up to the plate. You know, as bad as the offense was in this game, for both teams, with all the mistakes, turnovers, and things of that nature, you got to also give credit to the defense. I was really surprised by Seattle's defense because, again, and maybe I shouldn't have been, because when it's family business, these are the types of things that happen. I talked to my sister. We watched the game together yesterday, Saints, Falcons, and she was amazed at what happened. And so was everyone else, including me. But I told her, it's family business. These are the types of things that can happen when two family members get together. Throw the records out the window. I always tell you that. You never know what's going to happen. And in this particular game, Seattle had not played defense all season long. Cincinnati had them on the ropes in Seattle, let them off the hook. The Buccaneers had them on the ropes last week, let them off the hook. There have been other opportunities for Seattle to lose this season where they gave up points, including Pittsburgh on the road when Roethlisberger went down in like week 2 or 3. And they just have been able to find ways to win. They gave up a bunch of points to the Browns, but they were able to outscore them in that game and win that football game. But the defense hasn't been good this season. And I thought that they for sure was going to give it up on the ground, and Jimmy G was going to have opportunities to go play action fake and drive it down the field. And look, Deebo Samuel had a hell of a day. I mean, he was one of the few guys that actually made plays. He had a damn drop in this game as well. But he had a monstrous game, all right? Over 100 yards in this game. They were able to do some things in the past game. And if guys were able to catch the football, this might have been a different outcome. But give them credit. Jadeveon Clowney was an absolute uncaged beast in this football game. And I always talk to people about Jadeveon Clowney and the impact that he has because people love talking about his sack numbers. Oh, he's only had 9.5 career sacks as a career high, and he's never hit double digits before, and he's not worth the money. And I'm like, you obviously don't watch Jadeveon Clowney play football, because if you do, then you understand the impact that this man has. It doesn't always show up on the stat sheet, but the guy is a constant disruptor. And if you watched him tonight, sack numbers weren't there, all right? He had 1 sack tonight, but the sack numbers don't tell the story. You have to watch Jadeveon Clowney work. He was an absolute animal tonight, and he single-handedly disrupted the 49ers offensively, wrecked shop, and got Jimmy Garoppolo to be very uncomfortable. And he was really jittery in the pocket, and a lot of that credit should go to Jadeveon Clowney. Now, there were other guys that got home and other guys that were able to rattle his cage as well, but it all started with Jadeveon Clowney, and no one was as consistent as Clowney tonight, getting to the quarterback and really making him uncomfortable. So give him credit. But what was even more impressive was their ability to stop the run. And they had been run on this year as well, had the Seattle Seahawks. And they really stepped up to the challenge tonight defensively. I was shocked. I did not expect this kind of defensive performance. Now, again, had the 49ers caught the damn football, maybe this performance isn't as impressive. But to have the amount of sacks, to have the amount of turnovers and the pressures that they had, you got to give them credit in their ability to stop the run, put a lot of the pressure and onus on Jimmy G. And again, I know a lot of people are going to kill Jimmy G. You go right ahead. I'm not going to be one of them. Yeah, those fumbles are egregious, and he's got to protect the goddamn football. Can't have those fumbles. Those were massive turnovers in this game, especially the first one, because the Seattle Seahawks were dead. I mean, literally no offensive production. They didn't look like they were going to score at one point. And at one point, they had less than 200 yards of total offense and really had done nothing to that point, but yet the turnovers were keeping them afloat. And that first fumble gave them life. It was 10-0 and really no signs of them really scoring any points. And that turnover really turned this game on its head. And so, yeah, you can blame Jimmy G for those turnovers. He's got to protect the football. You get sacked, that's one thing. To turn it over with those sacks, it's a totally different issue. He's got to protect the football. But if his receivers catch the goddamn football tonight, it's a different ball game. So, yes, while on one hand, Jimmy G's got to protect the football better, can't be fumbling all over the goddamn place, his receivers have to catch the goddamn ball. And so I'm not willing to put this all on the lap of Jimmy G when his guys were out there throwing up all over themselves and not catching the goddamn football when it was thrown right to them. So you can look at it in a number of different ways. I'm going to give Seattle credit for forcing the issue, but also you have to take into consideration that there was no E-Man Sand, there was no George Kittle, and you were relying on guys like Kendrick Bourne and some of these other guys out there, Pettis and Deebo Samuel, and these guys at crucial times didn't always make plays, and especially Michael Bourne, all right? God damn it, I know his name is Kendrick, but he played like Michael Bourne tonight. And so that's rough. That's a tough, bitter pill to swallow if you're the 49ers. And Robert Saleh's defense stepped up again tonight. All right, they got after Russell Wilson. They forced turnovers. They did everything in their power, even the turnover in overtime that put them in a position to win this game. They did everything they could do, and the offense simply didn't hold up their end of the bargain. I mean, like I said, score was 10-0 for the longest, and it really wasn't the defense's fault that lead was squandered. 21 points all off of turnovers in this game. And the final exclamation point in this game, the final field goal, the game winner, comes off of a missed field goal. Again, the defense did what they needed to do. Yeah, you'd love them to get a stop at the end of the game and make this a tie. All right? And not allow this to be a loss. You'd like them to not allow Russell Wilson to break off a big run to set them up in the field goal range, or not allow DK Metcalf to get a catch and run that puts them in even more comfortable field goal range. Sure, but the defense did what they needed to do tonight to give the 49ers a prime opportunity to stay unbeaten on the season, and the offense simply let them down. And that's how this game pretty much went. And Seattle took advantage. Give them credit for taking full advantage of every opportunity they were given. You want to turn it over? We'll turn those turnovers into points. And that's what the good teams in this league do. They make you pay for your mistakes. And Seattle went on the road and made the 49ers pay for their mistakes in this football game. And they come out victorious 27-24 for the second consecutive week. The Seahawks win in overtime. This one, a massive win in the division that puts them a half game behind the 49ers, and now they own the season series right now at 1-0, and they go home for that final game versus the 49ers, and they have an opportunity to get the season sweep, and that may ultimately define who wins this division, is who wins this season series. And if the 49ers can somehow salvage a tie, that may be the difference between them winning the NFC West and Seattle winning this division. So gonna be really interesting now down the stretch to see how this goes, because if they win this game and Seattle drops to 7-3 and they go to 9-0, that's a big gap with only 7 games left in the season and a win over them in the season. It would have been a lot of ground for them to make up. They would have really created some serious distance between themselves and everybody else in the division, with the Rams struggling and now having a win head-to-head over Seattle. But instead now, it's 8-1, 8-2, and they're breathing down your neck. And let's see how the 49ers now respond. I'm really anxious to see how they respond to a little bit of adversity. They've always found themselves on the right end of these decisions this season. Now they lose their first game. Now I'm anxious to see how they respond to this first loss. Do they go into a shell? Do they find a way to battle back and overcome this adversity? And they got a golden opportunity to do it. They got Seattle at home next week. That's a great opportunity. It's family business. And remember how close that first game was just a week ago on Thursday night. Let's see if they are able to get some of these guys back healthy. But more importantly, are they able to stabilize their season, get it back on track? Or do they let one loss turn into 2 losses, and then the schedule gets really tough? Then you start seeing some of the better teams in the league, Green Bay at home, and then on the road at Baltimore, and on the road again against another winning team in the Saints. And so shit's about to get real for San Francisco. And this one loss can turn into 2 losses, can turn into 3 losses. All of a sudden now, what was an 8-0 ball club could be 9-4 if they're not careful. So I want to see how they handle this adversity that comes their way. Seattle is battle tested. They've been here before. All right. Russell Wilson understands what it takes. Jimmy G does not. So I want to see how this team bounced back after their first defeat of the season. Meanwhile, for Seattle, it's a massive win, because this is one of those confidence builders. They're learning how to win. This is really a young team, led by a quarterback that's been there, done that, and Russell Wilson, who's on an MVP campaign. But keep in mind, it's a relatively young football team. I mean, just look at the guys that he's throwing the football to. All right. Tyler Lockett goes out of this game. Don't know the extent of his injury, but you look around at the guys that he's throwing the football to. Gordon just got there last week. DK Metcalf is a rookie. All right. Turner is a guy that is emerging, but he's a young guy. So you're looking at a bunch of young receivers he's throwing the football to. Chris Carson fumbling the ball all over the damn place. So is his other running back and running mate in that backfield. And Rashad Penny, he also put it on the carpet tonight. All right. So a lot of young players, the blind leading the blind, but Russell Wilson understands how to get it done on that side of football. And then on the defensive side, you still got Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright. So you got a couple of veterans on that side of the football with a bunch of guys that are young, that haven't been on this team. Ziggy Ansah, new addition. Jadeveon Clowney, new addition. All right. You look around at that secondary, young guys everywhere. You just got the safety from the Detroit Lions. He just got there. All right. The young corners out there. All right. And Flowers and Griffin. These are young guys. So it's a young team, and they're learning how to win and they're gaining confidence. But the guys that are your veteran leaders on both sides of the football are going to continue to lead this team. And this was a big win. It was a big win on the road, prime time. Massive win for the Seattle Seahawks. I'm really fascinated by this NFC West division because I want to count the Rams out, and I probably should. They are not the same team, and their offensive line is killing them right now. But they may have something to say about this before it's all said and done. You know, they may not win the division, but they may ultimately win a game or two here that sways this in the favor of one of these two teams that ultimately wins this division. So I don't want to necessarily count out the Rams in this. I don't think they're going to win the division, okay? But I think they're going to actually have a say-so in who does win this division before it's all said and done. So this division is up for grabs now. It's a brand new ball game because I anticipated San Francisco winning this game and creating some distance between them, and the rest of the division. And now all of a sudden, they got a half-game lead, and their schedule is about to get real. You know, similar to the Patriots, where they were playing some cupcakes and they had some layups. They had Cincinnati and they had all these games. They had a Pittsburgh Steelers team that was trying to find themselves earlier in the season. They were able to take advantage of that. They had Tampa Bay, and they had a bunch of easy victories in games that you could kind of build up your resume and kind of build up your record and kind of gain a little bit of confidence. And they took advantage of all of them to the tune of 8-0. Yep, Arizona, all these teams that gave them an opportunity to win and get fat off of a schedule that was a little soft. Now the schedule is going to get tough. I want to see how San Francisco answers and responds to a little bit of adversity. This is what builds character. This is what builds winners. Adversity. All right. It's not the guy that's undefeated, that's never been hit in the mouth, that you expect to continue to win. That's rare. That's Floyd Mayweather. Those are rare. All right. It's the guy that gets hit in the mouth that you know can take a punch and get up off the canvas and defend his crown, like a Canelo. All right. Those are the kind of guys you want to see. Those are the kinds of teams I want to see. All right. It's easy to be Mike Tyson when you're winning and you're knocking everybody out and you're intimidating everybody. But what happens when you get hit in the mouth, like Roy Jones Jr.? Are you going to all of a sudden have a glass jaw and can't find a way to get up off the canvas and fight and win fights? Or are you going to get up and show your resolve in the heart of a champion? We're going to find out a lot about the San Francisco 49ers over the next month of this season, because their season can go in the opposite direction, and they could go from one of the favorites in the NFC to just a team in the NFC very quickly if they are not able to respond to this adversity. And it starts next week. Great bounce back opportunity at home versus Arizona. They need to take full advantage of that. For Seattle, got to build off this win. There have been a lot of close misses this season where teams had opportunities to knock you off. Now you've got to continue to build off of these wins that you're getting and get this thing to where you're within striking distance of this division. And so that's a massive win for the Seahawks as they get to 8-2 on the season with this 27-24 victory. So let's see. What's going on, LP? Niners fan says, game of the year, just not the outcome I hoped for. Me either, man. It was such a rough week. I was really banking on a 49ers win to at least salvage what was as bad of a week as it gets. I think I won all of 3 games this week. On a 13-game slate. I don't know if I've ever had double-digit losses before. I think I had double-digit losses. I do not think I was able to get a 4th win. All right. It was as bad a week as I've ever been a part of. But the bad part was, I think I drug a bunch of people with me. A lot of people didn't have the Miami Dolphins going into Indy and winning. A lot of people didn't have the Pittsburgh Steelers outlasting the Rams at home. A lot of people didn't have the Kansas City Chiefs going to Tennessee and losing. A lot of people didn't have the Giants dropping to the Jets. A lot of people didn't have the Lions not having Stafford, which I wish I would have had that information before I made my pick. Okay, I wish I would have had that information before Saturday, which is when it first came out that Stafford wasn't going to play. And so a lot of people didn't have the Lions losing to the woeful Bears, and no one had the New Orleans Saints at home dropping to the 1-7 Atlanta Falcons. So it was that kind of week. I mean, the Bills lose to the Browns. I mean, it was just one of those weeks that you could easily have 8, 9 losses. I had 10 because I thought the Cowboys were going to protect the house. They lose. I thought the 49ers were going to protect the house. They lose. And all of a sudden I look up and shit's gone to hell in the handbasket. So this was a trifling week, one for the ages. And this game was a period on what was a funky ass week of football for me picking. And, but that was a hell of a football game. Just like Sunday Night Football was a hell of a game. This was a hell of a game as well. Let's get back to the comment section though. Niners fan says, how about our D though? We could not have played any better. And I said that already. This was not on the 49ers defense. They did everything they could to gift wrap a win for this offense. And they simply wanted no parts of a W tonight. Them and the special teams, because even though Chase McLaughlin was good throughout the game, when they needed him most, he shanked the kick. And that's why he was on the streets right there, is because when the pressure started to mount and it got to its crescendo and its peak, he folded like a lawn chair. On a Sunday afternoon in July, he folded up. And that's unfortunate because this game probably should have been won by the 49ers. But when you don't take advantage of opportunities, this is what happens to you here. Niners fan also says, we played well enough to win. This one isn't solely on McLaughlin, but you got to make that 47-yarder. Absolutely. It's not just on him. I put it more on the offense than I do McLaughlin in that miss. But yes, you do have to make 47-yarders. I always say that 40 to 49 in this league is the money distance. As a field goal kicker, I need those. You know, anything 50 and north of that, look, you're on your own. You make it, great. If you don't, I'm not that mad at you. You expect kickers to make 50, 51, but you start traveling to that 52, 53, 54 distance. That's for elite kickers to make on a consistent basis. I don't expect most kickers to make those, but anything from 40 to 49, that's the money distance. I need those. All right. 30 to 39 is supposed to be automatic, and anything from 40 to 49, that's the money distance. Those are where the bulk of your kicks are going to come from in this league, and that's where you need to deliver. That's where you make your money as a kicker, and 47 yards, I need it. Simply put, I need it. I can't have a miss there with the game on the line. Let's see. The 20th Mike says, the 49ers would have rather had a rookie kicker they hired off the street go for a 47-yarder in OT at home against a division rival than trust Jimmy G to get one more first down. Shaking my head. Look, man, I didn't have a problem with that. 47 yards, and the man was 3 for 3, okay? It's not like he hadn't kicked the kick all game and they were running from him, or he was 0 of 2, or he was 1 of 3. The man was 3 of 3 going into that kick. So I would have done the same exact thing, all right? And it's not just Jimmy G you don't trust. I don't trust Kendrick Bourne at that point, after he's dropped a number of balls on me throughout the course of the night. I don't trust Marquise Goodwin after he dropped a ball that would have set us up for a touchdown earlier in the game. I'm not trusting these guys. It's not just Jimmy G. And also give credit to Seattle. They're getting to the quarterback. So how about you just let your kicker do what he's paid to do, and that's drill a 47-yarder and win you the football game. So I'm not mad at them for that decision. 49ers Niners fan says, we really missed Kittle and Sanders today. Our offense couldn't get it going, and Jimmy looked flustered. They did, and you did miss those guys. But I thought that there was enough guys on the field to get it done, and if they just catch the damn ball, it's a different game. That's just how I feel. Simply put. Atlas says, 49ers wishing they traded Jimmy G away at the deadline right now. Dude was so cold when it mattered. I don't agree with that. And I know that was coming, and I said it already that a lot of people are going to put this in the lap of Jimmy G. Go right ahead. I'm not going to stop you from doing that, because you cannot fumble the football when you get hit. You have to protect the football. But that being said, None of the picks were his fault. Now, he should have thrown a pick at the end of regulation, threw it right to KJ Wright, and he dropped it. Bobby Wagner had a chance at the pick. Probably should have. His wasn't as easy with a receiver draped all over him, but KJ Wright should have picked that football off. But outside of that, I don't put any of those picks on Jimmy G. Got to catch the goddamn football. Niners fan says Shanahan needs to take some of the heat here as well. What happened to all the all the run plays in the second half? Look, give the Seahawks some credit. They were stopping the run. All right, and I said that was one of the things I was shocked. Now, when you look at Tevin Coleman's numbers, 9 for 40, you're thinking to yourself, hey, that's over 4 yards a pop. Why'd you stop? But if you look at his longest run of the game, there was like a 18 or a 19-yard run in there. His numbers were skewed. You look at the rest of his runs, there weren't a lot of big runs in there by Tevin Coleman. There's a lot of 1s, 2s, and 3s in there. And then there was a 17 or 18, 19, maybe even a 20-yarder in there that he popped early in the game. So it wasn't a lot of success. And if you go down the list of running backs, nobody was getting off. Mostert had one good run, but he didn't have a bunch of good hits, and neither did Matt Breida. So they did a pretty good job of stopping the run. And I hate to say it, but Booger McFarland talked about this because he's awful. But he did say, look, they're stacking the box. I didn't think that they were putting 9 in the box. He kept saying they're putting 8, 9. Now, no, they weren't putting 9 in the damn box. But it was consistently 8 in the box. Okay? They were consistently putting 8 in the box and daring the Niners to throw the football. And they were at early in the game, they were blitzing. They were pressuring Jimmy G and daring him to beat them with his arm. And when they had Emmanuel Sanders, they were killing him on the slants. And as the game wore on, they were able to just get pressure with 4, and they still were stacking the box and daring them to throw the football, and their receivers weren't coming up big. So I hear you on the run plays, but the run just wasn't working, and they weren't going to allow the run to work. So you got to go to the pass game at that point. Let's see. Let's see. Niners fan says, people will be hating on Jimmy today, but he let us down the field at the end of the game and got us into OT without Kittle and Sanders. I told you, I'm not going to allow Jimmy G to take all the heat. I know a lot of people are going to give him all the smoke that he wants. And again, I'm not going to stop them from doing that, but I'm not going to allow it to just be a Jimmy G bashing session. I'm going to step in and make sure that you understand that this wasn't all Jimmy's doing. He had help in the demise of the 49ers tonight, offensively. Reby says, what's good, Lou? Only got to see OT. I can only imagine how good this game was. Oh, yeah. How about them girls? Ha ha. Yeah, man. It was a rough week, period, man. And, man, I'm baffled by how this week transpired. I was so hot. I had 2 straight hot weeks. And last week was not an easy week. But yet I was hot. And I said it, that I didn't think this was going to be a good week on my podcast. And I'm still going to release the pod. It's late. I'm still going to release it. But, man, that was a hell of a football game. Anyway, Niners fan also says, Russ is fantastic, but we gave him way too many opportunities today. We couldn't keep contained it all when it mattered. Yeah, and you know what I thought you guys should have done? Was spy him. I don't understand why more teams don't spy Russell Wilson and some of these more athletically gifted quarterbacks. Unlike a Lamar Jackson, where to hell with your spy because Lamar can either shake him or just run by him. Russ isn't that dude. If you put an athletic linebacker in front of Russ, you can deter him from making big plays in the run game as a runner. But for some reason, and the 49ers have this speed athletically to do that, to take a Dre Greenlaw and say, all right, cut that shit out. Dre, wherever he goes, you go. They have the ability to do that. Fred, wherever he goes, you go. They have the ability to do that. They just don't. I don't understand that. Kyle Little says, all I got to say is these NFC West primetime games have been amazing. NFC West has to be the best division in football without a doubt. Yeah, I guess you could say that. The Seahawks and Rams game earlier this year, outstanding. Niners and Cardinals on Thursday night, outstanding. In this game, outstanding. So yeah, they've delivered. Every time they've put NFC West product on the field in a primetime fashion, they've delivered for us. So yeah, you're right. It has been an amazing stretch of games in the division. And this is the best division. Statistically, I think it's the best division as well. With 3 teams over 500, and then the Cardinals are no slouch, no pushover down at the bottom of that division. So yes, I think this is the best division. The 20th Mike says, crazy, the last Monday night overtime game was back in the 80s. Your title is finally legit, LOL. The Monday Night Football overtime, or just the overtime series in general. Really? Are you serious? That the last, no way. There's been a Monday night game that has gone to overtime before. No way. That's not true. I don't believe that. Anyway, RG3 hashtag says, Russell Wilson or Lamar Jackson, who you picking for MVP? Oh, it's Russell Wilson, hands down. It's not even close. Even though Lamar has done some spectacular things, Russ is in a different zone right now. He's on a different level. Niners fan says, we played well enough to win, but our mistakes were too much to overcome. In 8-1, the world is not falling apart. It is not. But as I mentioned at the top of the show, definitely want to see how this team handles adversity. Let's see. Romonger says, is it me or did someone have their hand on that Buffalo Wild Wings button all night long? Go Hawks. It seemed like it, didn't it? Every time you thought, okay, this game's about to be over. And he's like, nope, gonna press the Buffalo Wild Wings button. Let's keep playing the game. I honestly thought we were getting a tie. After McLaughlin missed the kick, I said, okay, this thing's gonna end in another tie. And we're going to have another couple of NFC West teams with ties on their records to go along with the Arizona Cardinals. And somehow the Seahawks were able to get down the field and get this thing done and kick a walk-off. And yikes. Anyway, Thomas S. says, if George Kittle is there, they win that game. Key moments where Kittle is reliable, dude, no one steps up. And we're able to really step up. You're right. I truly believe that if Kittle were there are some crucial third downs and some situations that the Seahawks probably would not have had an answer for him. And he would have made plays for them, simply put. But when you don't have that guy, you need other players to step up. And Kendrick Bourne had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. He was wide ass open to make plays, and he just did it. Simple as that. You know, guys needed to make plays. I talked about the Goodwin opportunity early in the game. He didn't make a play. There were opportunities there. You know, you can't just blame it on Kittle being injured or E-Man Sand getting hurt. There were plays to be made in this game, and they just didn't make them. Plain and simple. Big Blue Rising says, Jimmy looks like an average QB without the run game in Kittle. Hey, look, man. I'm going to tell you this much. Jimmy G is solid. I think he has the ability to be a really good quarterback. But I don't think he is one of these guys that you can just put it on his shoulders and just have him go out and win a game. Yet, I think he can get there. I'm not like a lot of you who don't think Jimmy G has what it takes to be elite. I've seen it. Last week versus Arizona, we saw it. We saw Jimmy G put the team on his back with a compromised George Kittle. All right? We saw him make throw after throw after throw. That was ridiculous. All right? I saw him make throws tonight that should have helped his team win the game. I also saw some throws that showed me he was flustered by the pressure. All right? But that's not uncommon. When you get to Tom Brady does dumb shit with the football. All right? When you get to quarterbacks, when you get to Phillip Rivers does dumb shit with the football. All right? That's not uncommon in this league. Let's not act like guys stare in the face of pressure and don't do stupid shit with the football. Because we see guys under pressure, under duress, do dumb things with the football. And these are guys that we call elite in this league. All right? So I'm not going to sit here and act as if pressure doesn't make you into a different quarterback. However, There were opportunities for plays to be made, and Jimmy made some of those throws, and guys didn't help him. So again, I'm not going to allow the Jimmy bashing to commence tonight. Yes, Jimmy was not his sharpest. Yes, Jimmy had some crucial fumbles, but Jimmy made some throws that if guys catch the football, it is a different ball game. End of discussion. Okay? So, I'm not going to allow you guys to just kill Jimmy like that. Azad Belial says, you know what team also won today? The Packers, because they're now one game back of the number 1 seed. And in 2 weeks, they'll face the Niners for first place in the NFC. That game will be huge. And I'm thinking to myself right now that game has a chance to be flexed to Sunday Night Football. I do not know what the Sunday night game is that week. I'm really anxious to know who's in that slot because right now, the NFL has a massive problem on their hands, if I'm not mistaken, that they're going to be 2 massive primetime showdowns at 4 o'clock that are America's game of the week that they don't want going head-to-head with one another. All right? There's another game that week, if I'm not mistaken, that's really damn good. And they don't want, and I think it's Cowboys-Patriots. And I don't think they want Cowboys-Patriots going head-to-head with Packers and Niners. So one of those games to me is gotta be flexed to Sunday night. And I don't know what the Sunday night game is that week, but whatever it is, it can't be as good as Patriots, Cowboys, or 49ers, Packers. Somebody's got to go out of that Sunday night game, and one of those 2 games has to be flexed. And if you were asking me, I think it should be 49ers and Packers because that's going to probably most likely be 9-1. 9-1 versus 8-2 or whatever the Packers are at that point. So it'll be interesting to see what the NFL decides to do there. Something's got to be done though. Anyhow, let's see. Black LB says, "Damn it, Lou, what a game! But where the hell were you for Sunday Night Football?" Had a lot going on. I almost didn't make it tonight, to be honest with you, man. I talked about this on my podcast. I think I'm going to still release it, but had a death in the family, man. So it's been a rough, say last 72 hours or so. So it's been tough. And, but I've been making it though, you know, and, so haven't gotten as much sleep and been really busy doing other things. And, so yeah, that's what's been going on. And I just didn't have it in me, man. I didn't have the energy. I was tired. I just didn't have it in me to get up here and do the show last night. But I'm here tonight. Late, you know. I was late, but still great, you know, and better late than never. So anyway, let's see. Let's see where we are. Azad Belial says, also this game was well overdue. We haven't gotten a good Monday night game since week 1, Texas Saints. And finally, we got an amazing Monday night football game. You're right. Monday night has been really disappointing this year. A lot of blowouts, a lot of lopsided matchups, a lot of games that they projected onto the schedule to be good, like Jets and Browns, like 49ers and Browns, that they were hoping these teams would actually be good this season, and they weren't. You know, one of the teams were good, or in the case of Jets, Browns, neither of those teams were any good. You know, the Giants, Cowboys, that didn't do them any favors. Teams like the Redskins playing the Bears, they ended up being 2 stinking teams. So, yeah, it's been really rough as Monday Night Football, but maybe this will be the start of Monday Night Football starting to have some good games. We got another family business matchup next week over in Mexico City as the Chargers and the Chiefs will be taking on one another. So maybe that game will give us some more fireworks as well. Niners fan says, people acting like the Seahawks are better than us when we literally gave the game away and we're without 2 of our best offensive players. Again, you know what it is. You know, and you knew this was going to happen if you lost this game, that there were going to be a lot of Seahawks fans coming out and a lot of people talking trash about about your team as if you didn't just lose your first game of the season. Again, don't pay any attention to any of that. What you have to focus on and what you should be intrigued by is how does this team respond to their first adversity of the season. All right? Got a great bounce back game coming your way in Arizona. Take care of business. All right? Take care of business and ride that momentum of getting that win into the next 3 games, which are all tough. Green Bay, Baltimore, and New Orleans. Starts with Arizona, though. Get a bounce back win and ride that momentum of that win into those games and see if you can't win 2 out of 3 of those. So, Quandre Diggs is who you're talking about. Yes, thank you, Nick. The Lions, ex-Lions safety that my man was not happy about them letting go. Darius Slay was not happy about that trade at all. Robert Gamble says, why would they not go for it on 4th and 1? Instead, they had a better chance. They instead of getting their backup kicker. Look, I didn't have a problem with the call because we would have been if they would have went for it, not gotten it, and lost the game. Then you would have been saying, why didn't they kick the field goal? So it goes both ways. 47-yard field goal, as I just mentioned, that's supposed to be money. I need my kicker to knock that down, whether you off the street or not. That was Chase McLaughlin's opportunity to cement himself as a real NFL kicker. He makes that kick, goes 4 for 4, including a pressure kick to get you to overtime and a pressure kick to win you the game in overtime. After they get their kicker and Robbie Gould back, guess what? He would have had a job somewhere on an NFL roster kicking, So he had a chance to, and he may ultimately get another shot, but he had a chance to cement himself in this league as a real legitimate NFL quality kicker, and he blew it. He blew it. So I don't have a problem with them kicking that field goal. I don't. Niners fan says, Lou, we got the Cards at the crib next week. Hopefully it's a get-right game, but it's family business, so we will see. And I mentioned that several times already. HHC Lunar says, thank God it wasn't a tie. You said it, man. I couldn't have dealt with another one of those, man. I'm sick. I'm already sick and tired of every time I talk about Arizona or Detroit, I got to throw that stinking ass one at the end. I could not have dealt with throwing a one at the end of 2 really good teams. At least both of those teams stink, and so you don't have to talk about them as much. These are 2 teams that are going to make it to the postseason. Man, would that have been dreadful to have to throw a one at the end of both of their records the remainder of the season. So I'm with you. Thank God it wasn't another tie. Gregory Lightbody says, DK got me thinking he's better than Terry. I hope Terry starts producing. Look, can't put Terry's lack of production on him. The numbers are really a byproduct of nobody around him producing and the quarterback position not being good enough either. HHC Lunar says, Clowney showed you his number 1 pick talent tonight. Bad trade by the Texans. Look, you already knew how I felt about Jadeveon Clowney, and I wanted my Redskins to go after him. And that guy's going to make a ton of money this offseason because the Seahawks have already guaranteed him that they're not going to franchise tag him after the season's done. He's going to make a boatload of money, probably become the highest paid defensive player in the league, and he deserves it. He deserves it. Let's see. Gregory Lightbody says, why didn't we trade Williams for Clowney again? You already know. You ask the questions you already know the answers to. Captain Sparta says, put respect on my man Ali's name. Look, Muhammad Ali is the greatest. Obviously, he's the GOAT. But I'm talking relevancy now. Canelo's the relevant guy. You know what I mean? And when you start talking about guys with glass chins or guys that didn't respond to adversity well, you're talking about Mike Tyson. So that was the easiest analogy there. But when I think of a guy in boxing that hasn't run away from anybody, has fought everyone, that guy's Canelo. He fought Floyd Mayweather when he probably wasn't ready to, but wasn't scared and didn't back down. And he's fought everybody in boxing. All right? Every name you can think of, he's went up in weight classes. Canelo's the man right now. Anyway, Gregory Lightbody says, why we got to watch Browns versus Steelers after this performance? It's family business. It actually might be pretty damn good. It may not be as entertaining in terms of scoring, but I'm telling you right now, the Steelers play defense. I love watching that defense work. They play defense. Now, their offense is miserable to watch, but that defense in Pittsburgh, A1, okay? You're going to have fun watching them dismantle that Browns offense, But then again, the Browns may be able to do some work against that stinking ass Pittsburgh Steelers offense. So you could easily see a 9-6, 12-9, 15-12 game on Thursday night. It might actually be fun to watch. Reese says, you have to commend Seattle. Everyone said they were done after the Legion of Boom left. That they were going to take a step back. They didn't give a damn. They stayed in contention. Most impressive. I talked about that last year. I talked about that because last year I think we all said that the Seahawks were in rebuild mode and that they were at least going to need a season to take a step back, reassess their situation, and then come back with more firepower. And instead of rebuilding, they just reloaded. And they did it on the run. And that last year, them making the postseason was one of the best coaching jobs I think I've seen Pete Carroll do since he took over in Seattle. I mean, that was one hell of a job last year. This year, this was expected. I thought they had a chance to not only, and I told you after the Clowney trade, go back and watch the Clowney trade video I did. I said, this gives them a chance to win the division. And remember, we didn't think they would be battling out for the division with San Francisco. We thought they'd be doing it with the Rams. So I thought this was very possible, and I thought that they could win the division. And I actually said after the Clowney trade that they're the new favorites in that division. So this isn't a surprise to me. I thought their defense would be better, though. Not going to lie to you. Jordan Moreno says, have you ever considered being a football coach or scout or some sort? I've been a coach for a couple of years now, and if someday I make it big, I'd love to take you with my staff. I've never even thought about being a coach. I do love the game, though. But I can tell you this much, man. When you watch as much football and you submerge yourself in it, I told you, I love this game. I talked about it on my podcast. I'm going to release that podcast. I was thinking about not releasing it because of so many things that went down, and I just didn't have time to release it. It's a quick pod, but I think I'm going to release it because on that pod, I actually talk about just how much I love football. But I've never thought about being a coach or a scout or anything like that. Scouts, you know what? Their job is the absolute worst. You absolutely have to love football and really love it to the point where it doesn't matter how much you're getting paid or how much you're away from your family. I don't think scouts get paid nearly enough for what they do, and how much time they're away from their families and the dedication that you have to be in an area for so long, scouting players and trying to get intel on guys. And they do a lot, man. They're really the backbone of what teams do. And a lot of people don't really understand how big scouts are in the development of an organization and a roster. And so, no, I've never really given that much thought. But I do know that being a coach or a scout, there's a lot that goes into that. I do respect the trade and what those guys do and the sacrifices that they do make. Reese says, this was my first time seeing Kyler Murray firsthand, Lou. And man, oh man, he is the truth. Freakishly talented. I'm a little ashamed that it took you 10 weeks of football to understand how good he was, but I'm glad you finally got to see it firsthand. Reese says, anything 50 and up, and I give my kicker a pass. 49 and below, you have no excuse. Kicking is all you have to do, make it. And that's essentially how I feel. 40 to 49 is the money distance. I need it. Anything under 40 should be automatic. So what I essentially am telling you is 49 and under, I need it. Period. End of discussion. Anything over 50, hey, it's a crapshoot. And really the elite kickers, they're good from 50 plus, the Zerlines, the Justin Tuckers of the world. Yeah, I expect them to bless a 50-yard field goal like it's nothing. But, most of the kickers are mortal in this league. And so 52 is a really long field goal for them. But anything under 50 yards, I need it. Point blank, end of discussion. Gregory Lightbody says, who had it worse, Chase or Parkey? Oh, no doubt Parkey. I mean, this wasn't a playoff game, and that double doink was awful. You know what I mean? That was heartbreaking. Let's see. Gregory Lightbody says, 49ers wanted Kirk for a first-round pick, but Skins were too stupid. You think Kirk is better than Jimmy? Yes, I do. Absolutely. And for where they are, Kirk would have been ready to win right now. Jimmy is still learning how to win. I like Jimmy. And I think Jimmy, believe it or not, has a higher upside than Kirk Cousins does. But I don't know if he'll ever reach that upside. Kirk is a polished quarterback, and you know what you're getting from him. You saw it last night on Sunday Night Football. At some point, Kirk is going to stop that narrative of he can't beat teams over 500 and this, that, and the third. And I hate this narrative that Kirk's never performed on a big stage, because he went out and slayed Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers on a primetime game a couple of years ago. He destroyed the Raiders before we knew they were trash a couple of years ago on a Sunday night. He's done this before. You know, this narrative that he can't win on primetime. He put the Redskins in a position to beat the Chiefs a couple of years ago, and Josh Doxson couldn't come down with the catch in the end zone, or else we win that football game. Like, this whole thing that Kirk can't win on primetime and he can't do this, like, miss me with all of that. You know, this guy, yes, he hasn't always been clutch, but the guy can play football. Eventually they'll see it. Anyway, Reese says, I thought we contained Russ pretty well with our athletic front seven. I expect San Fran to do the same. I was a little disappointed in their inability to keep him contained tonight. I was disappointed that they didn't have a spy on him. And for that to be family business, you know better. You know, it's one thing if it's Tampa Bay, or it's another thing if it's the Browns, or, you know, it's the Steelers, or one of these teams that don't know better. You know better. You know better. You know better. Come on, man. No flex zone. No flex zone. You know better. You know better. It's family business. You should know better. Spy his ass. Don't let him run all over you. I was really disappointed in them for that. Buffalo pregame says, nearly had a perfect score of 24-21 in the second string. Former Bills kicker had to ruin it. He also says the Bills are about to have the worst collapse in team history. No, they're not. Stop, okay? He says, I really wanted to see the overtime game. They said during the game the last Monday Night Football overtime was 1983. Are you kidding me? They said that on the telecast? Because I was playing catch up because I was behind. So I probably ended up fast forwarding over them saying that. There's no way you're telling me we've went 3 decades without a game going overtime on Monday night? No way. I refuse to believe that. Refuse to believe that. Unbelievable. Junior 13 says, I still don't know about Jimmy. I like him, but I don't think he has shown to be a next level QB. Russell Wilson is just that guy. What Legion of Boom? LOL. I understand if you have apprehension about Jimmy G. I understand that. I don't have it because I've seen what I needed to see to understand that this guy can play at a high enough level. And even tonight, I saw a guy that put his team in a position to win, and some of his players around him didn't do enough. Now, the fumbles are inexcusable. I can't state that enough. And the throw at the end of the game to KJ Wright that should have been picked off, can't have that in a crucial moment. But I thought Jimmy G did enough to put his team in the position to win, and unfortunately, he didn't get enough help from his supporting cast. Had those throws been to Emmanuel Sanders, this is a different game. Simple as that. Buffalo pregame says, last Monday night tie, my bad, was 1983. Okay, that sounds more realistic. There's no way we've gone 3 decades with no Monday night game going to overtime. That's dumb. No way. If I would have sat here, I would be able to tell you a Monday night game that's went to overtime. There's no way that we haven't had now a tie. That sounds about right. Buffalo pregame says, horrible clock management at the end by the 49ers. They should have played for a tie, just take a knee. I didn't have a problem with that. No, you don't. In that situation, they had a chance to go down the field, get back in the field goal range. I didn't have a problem with that. The incompletions didn't help them, but you expect your defense to be able to come onto the field and get a stop and force this to be a tie. So I didn't have a problem with that. Nothing the 49ers did in this game do I second guess. Obviously, they could have went for it on 4th and 1. I didn't have a problem with a 47-yard field goal. I didn't. I'm sorry. I didn't have a problem with that decision. You expect your kicker to be able to bang it home from 47. And like I said, it's not like the guy was 1 of 3 or 0 of 2 earlier in the game. He was flawless. He had made everything, and the last kick with pressure on it to send the game to overtime went right down. When you hear it go, when you hear the expression splits the uprights, that literally split the middle of the uprights. It went straight down the middle. So at that point, he was thinking, hey, this guy has been money. Let's see if he can't cap off what has been a great night and make that field goal. So it is what it is, man. Reese says, even though our record is worse, I think my Bucks are better than they were last year. Would you agree? Yes. I already told you, though, you were going to be a better team because of your head coach. And I said he's going to come in there and he was going to make you a better football team. And offensively, you're a much better team. You're just so young defensively. And, you know, if you could get that back end to match up with what you do up front, you'd be a much different team. I appreciate the condolences, guys. I really do. Buffalo pregame says, I hate it when Russell Wilson says, go Hawks. It's like, shut up, man. Not as bad as Tom Brady, but kind of close. Though he is a great player, no disrespect there. I love it. He's got that whole college mentality. You know what I mean? I love it. I love when he says that. Seize Up says, after this game, do you think Jimmy G is a franchise quarterback with all the missed throws in crunch time? I already said what I need to say on Jimmy G. I don't think that this falls on the lap solely of Jimmy G. Much like a Kirk Cousins loss, where everybody tries to blame Kirk like he was the reason they lost and the only reason they lost, it's not just his fault. It's never just Kirk's fault. It's never just Jimmy G's fault, or at least not in this particular instance. And in most of the instances with Kirk Cousins, there were some games where you're like, nah, Kirk really vomited all over himself. But a lot of times, like the Chiefs game, for instance, a couple of weeks ago, they lost that game. And no, Kirk didn't put the team on his back and had opportunities to make some throws, and he didn't. But that game wasn't solely a Kirk Cousins loss. Same thing here with Jimmy G. You know, yeah, Jimmy G had a chance to make some throws, and he didn't. And he had some fumbles that were crucial, and some of those interceptions, yeah, those passes could have been better. They were a little high, but they are catchable footballs that at this level need to be caught. And so I'm not willing to just put it on Jimmy G. I'm sorry. I'm not willing to do that. Seize Up says, who's in your top 5 MVP candidates after this showing? Russell Wilson, Christian McCaffrey obviously are your top 2 for me still. Lamar Jackson is making a bid right now. When you look at, I'm trying to think of some other guys that have been really good this season. I really think those 3 have separated themselves. Deshaun Watson, what he's doing for Houston has been outstanding. I think he's another guy you have to consider for MVP as well. And I don't really know if there are many other guys. I may be missing a player or 2. I know a lot of people wanted to throw, the Bozas in there, but I'm good. Nick Bosa can be defensive rookie of the year or defensive player of the year, but he can't be MVP of the league. No, that's not how that works. But yeah, I think those are your 4 right now that I have. I don't know if I can come up with another guy right now. Russell Wilson, Christian McCaffrey, Deshaun Watson, and Lamar Jackson for me are on a short list of guys that have played at an MVP-like level this season. Yeah, I think that's about it. And when I think about that, I think it's a short list, and I think those are the guys that are on it at this point. I'm glad you picked up on it, Nick. Reese says our front 7 is ferocious. We may be a secondary away from the big time. I agree with that. And Dalvin Cook has to be in there. Yeah. I you know what, Nick? I throw Dalvin Cook in there as well. I think he's going to be your rushing title leader when it's all said and done. I think he's going to win a rushing crown. As long as he stays healthy, I think Dalvin Cook is going to win a rushing crown this year. And what he's also doing in the receiving game should not be slept on. And so, yes, I think Dalvin Cook would round out my top 5. I think he's still a ways off. I think there's a gap between CMC and I think there's a gap with CMC and Russell Wilson and Lamar Jackson. I think then there's a gap and then there's Deshaun Watson and Dalvin Cook. So yes, I think Cook does deserve a vote or two for league MVP. But for me, I think those three are kind of in a class of their own right now. And then and really, if Mahomes doesn't get hurt, he's in the discussion as well. But for me, it's really between CMC and Russell Wilson right now. And I think Russell Wilson is starting to make that power move to try to separate himself from the rest of the pack with the MVP race. But there it is. Monday Night Football overtime, and it was a dandy. Two really good, and honestly, I told you that this was going to be a week full of really good primetime games, and we weren't disappointed. Every single one of the primetime matchups came down to the wire and were very entertaining and thrilling finishes and matchups. And we got what we bargained for on Thursday with Chargers, Raiders, Sunday night with Vikings, Cowboys, and Monday night with 49ers and Seahawks. And so a hell of a week of primetime matchups. And this was a great exclamation point on what was a zany week of football in the National Football League as the Seattle Seahawks march into San Francisco and march out with a 27-24 victory, as they now sit a half game back of the lead in the NFC West division at 8-2. 49ers suffer their first defeat of the season and are knocked from the ranks of the unbeaten, and now there are no more unbeaten teams in the league, as they are now 8-1 on the season. And valiant effort by the 49ers, and again, can't say enough about their defense, man. Robert Saleh and his group, man, have they been good this year. And honestly speaking, they deserved better. They deserved a better outcome in this game. But give the Seahawks credit, man. They forced the issue. They made plays, and they took advantage of opportunities when they were presented. And they come out the victors in this game, 27-24 in overtime, as they get the win. And now, don't look now, but they're right there in the thick of things. Not just in the NFC, but now for the number one overall seed in the conference. We're starting to get to that time now. We're in double-digit weeks. Now you start turning your attention to seeding and where you are, and it's getting really hot in the NFC West with this win by the Seahawks. I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. I thank you guys for joining me. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not the best NFL coverage it could be. Until next time, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. Thank you for joining me. Remember, like the video, subscribe to the Louie T Network if you haven't already done so, and share this video if at all possible. You guys enjoy the rest of your night. I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Have a good one. And thank you for sticking it out with me. I know I was a little tardy, but hey, I'll be there in 5 minutes. Go ahead. I'll be there in 5 minutes. 5 hours later, I'll be there in 5 minutes. Go ahead, ride with it. I'm so live with it. Look how I did it. Been bullshitting, but I finally arrived with it. I know it's late and I took all year, but y'all can stop complaining because I'm finally here. Yeah. See y'all next time.
Louie T Network.